First, giving honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus, who is the Christ, to the Most High, His Holy Spirit, and to Pastor Ledbetter for opening his doors to us today, and to Pastor Lee and his lovely wife for coming out today, and to each and every one of you that will be viewing this video today. We greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus, who is the Christ, and we welcome you to session 3 of Black History According to the Bible. Black History According to the Bible. Now, just to give a brief review of some of the things that we've covered, just to catch you back up. We talked about in session 1, John 8:32 says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." We understand. Let me get Matthew 12:25, which has been our standard verse, standard scriptures that we give every week to show why we are doing this. Because we want to know, what about learning our history? How will this impact our lives, and how will it impact my future and my community? Matthew 12:25. Look at that.
And Jesus knew their thoughts, and he said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation.
So we understand being divided is what has destroyed us. Go ahead.
And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand.
And we talked about last week about how the lack of understanding and heritage and identity has divided the homes. And pastors, I know you guys know that when the houses are not in order and on one accord, it makes your job a whole lot difficult. Because houses out of order produces churches out of order. It's like you're always fixing holes in the chicken ship, because once you get this one over here fixed, then you got this one. And you ain't never really to go forward with the vision. It's always funny to me when you hear people say, well, man, why pastor always preaching the same thing? It's because it ain't set in yet. I can't move on to newer things if you ain't gathered this yet. And I think that's one of the things that our people haven't understood. Why pastors are continuously going over the same thing, because until you get down your multiplication tables, I can't teach you algebra. I can't do it. And so we understand that there has to be a form of unity in the home. The husband and the wife has to be on one accord. Raising the children, which produces a community on one accord, which produces churches that are on one accord, which produces a nation which is on one accord. And we learned that in order to find the lie, we must define the truth. We must look behind the lie, discover the lie, discover who lied, and figure out how does the liar benefit from presenting the lie as the truth. We found out that the Middle East was a made-up narrative. And we found out that we were not the cursed seed of Ham. The cursed seed of Ham was not cursed. But we also found out that we were not even from the seed of Ham. Let's read that again out of here. This is what we call the Compact Bible Dictionary. Pastors, you need to get one of these if you don't already have one. It's a very useful tool in studying and giving word origins and the countries, and be able to understand the civilizations prior to today. And I tell this to people, if say for example, if you saw a person and you say, a person that just born would think that the current inhabitants of this land was always here. We know America is only, 200 something years, 1798, something like that. So it's a little under 300 years old. But the way it seems as if these people that are here has always been here, but really what they call Native Americans were here 1,000 years before that. So these things like this help you get an understanding based on what you see today may not be what it was, right? So let's get that out of the Bible dictionary when it talks about the definition of Ham.
Ham, the youngest of the son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
Right.
He became the progenitor of the dark races,
right?
Not the Negroes.
Not the Negroes.
But the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and the Canaanites.
Now, the reason why we're mentioning this again, going back over this again, because something that the Most High told me yesterday. in our Purim celebration yesterday. I didn't really think about, and I wanted to make sure I relate this during this. They not only lied about who the real Israelites are, but if you notice in the movies, they have lied about who the Egyptians are. And this is why they have to do that. So when you look at the Ten Commandments, this is why they have Pharaoh looking like a white man. Okay. This is when you see these movies today, most of the time, the only people, when they talk about ancient Egypt, only people that are black in there are the actual slaves, but the pharaohs and all of the people in there always look white. They do that because if you understand who Egypt is, then you will understand that the people that was down in that area couldn't be that way. Just like Ms. Barber stated last week, how could Jesus be a white Jewish man going into a land full of black people and hide? Right? But when you see these movies today, they make the Egyptians look like they're white. And that's not true. Right? So we wanted to bring that out again today because that all of this is part of the lie. And so for those who hear it, we got the videos, you can go back over that. And we went through the Bible and showed all of these people or who they were called to be black. But then in session 2, we made a statement. First by faith, and then because we believed it at the end, right? That statement was, and I want you guys to say it along with me for those who weren't with us last week. It says, FYI, I need y'all to say this with me, FYI, Black history starts as slavery in America. But our history goes back 1,000 years before that. Now, do you understand what that means? Black history starts as slavery in America. That's not real. That's a false narrative. But our history goes back 1,000 years before that. The black man did not exist before that. There was not a person in the world calling himself black before we came to this country in slave ships. Nobody related to themselves based on their skin color. No one did that. You notice in the movies when you always would hear a person, they would say, let's say, just give myself for example, they would say, Levander, son of Levander. You notice why they always did that? Because they knew by you mentioning your father belonged to a certain tribe or a certain country. No westernized, this whole thing of saying white and black is a westernized way of doing things. And it's done that strategically so that one will pinpoint the origins of who we are. Nobody from Sudan, Ethiopia, Morocco, Algiers, Libya, these countries that are in Africa, none of them people call themselves black. It's only Americans who call themselves black. People in Europe don't call themselves white. They say, I'm English, I'm Irish, I'm Scottish, I'm French, I'm Spanish, I'm Portuguese. They don't call themselves that. And only in America, it's color matters. That's the only way. All right. And we have to understand that was on purpose. So, we talked about how many of you ever heard the statement that it doesn't matter who the children of Israel are because we're all the same in Christ. That's what they say in the church, right? And we talked about, we went over some scriptures that made me realize that that was a lie as well. If I'm on the bottom and I know you're on the top and I'm in control, I'm going to make sure you think we need to be equal. This is kind of how I like to give it. We did this when the first time we actually did this lesson. And I said, imagine you being in a coma and you wake up and you have an adopted brother. And now that adopted brother has convinced you that you're real brothers and sisters. And your family was well off, riches, generations back. And that adopted brother makes you believe that he's just as equal as you. Now we know that when people adopt children, you treat the children just as well as yours. Nobody treats a kid you adopt different. But everyone understands that there's a different type of relationship between someone you birthed and someone you bring in. I mean, that's just the way it is. Israel, ladies and gentlemen, is birthed by the Most High. And the Gentile nations were grafted in. The adoption will never be treated as a sin. That's just as simple as that. So I tell people to understand that equality is a downgrade. The only reason our people ever protested for equal rights is because we didn't know who we were. And that's a hard conversation to have because of our upbringing and our traditions and things that taught us. But I'm only saying what the Bible says. Let's get that. Romans 3. Which one we got first? Romans 7? Okay, let's get Romans 3 first. Let's get it in the New Testament. Because if we go old, that'll be the justification out of here. So let's go New Testament. Let's go Romans 3. This is something that we went over last week, but I want to bring this into this week before we get into this. Let me get Romans 3, verse 1. Before you read that, I want to put out there that when we get to verse 4, you're going to see a scripture that is quoted by Christians quite often. But you're going to see by reading verses 1, 2, and 3 that the way people use verse 4 is not what Paul was saying. Okay? So let's start at Romans 3, verse 1.
What advantage then hath the Jew?
So, if the Christian church teaches that there is no benefit in being an Israelite, why would Paul ask that question? He said what?
What advantage then hath the Jew?
Mm-hmm.
Or what profit is there of circumcision?
Now, when you see the word circumcision, that is talking about the whole 12 tribes there. So he said, what profit is there being of the circumcision? And what was his answer?
Much every way.
Much every way. So that completely contradicts the religion of Christianity. But what did he say?
Much every way, chiefly because unto them were committed the oracles of God.
Now, the way you show that and prove that is with the Bible. Let's go to Psalms 147, verse 19 to 20. Right? We're just giving the background, setting up to go into this new information. Psalms 147, verse 19 to 20. Watch this.
He showeth his word unto Jacob.
He showeth his word unto Jacob.
His statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
His statutes and judgments unto Israel. Go ahead.
He has not dealt so with any nation.
He has not dealt so with any other nation. Go ahead.
As for his judgments,
they
have not known them.
They have not known them. That's just like me coming to Rosa Sharon next Sunday, and I pull up before Pastor Lee and his wife get there, and I come in there and say I'm the pastor. Some people gonna look at me like I'm crazy. What? As for his deacons and his members, I have not known them. So how could I go forth and tell them anything? What gives me the right? I'm gonna come down to Piney Grove, I'm gonna do the same thing the following Sunday. I'm gonna get here before you get here, and I'm gonna tell the members, I'm Anthony Ledbetter. They would look at me like I'm crazy. And see, the reason why we are misunderstanding this whole understanding is because what we see as the Christian scholars are not Israelites. The Roman Church is the one who created Christianity and Catholicism. Okay. So when you start asking people, who are the founders of Christianity? They're gonna say John Calvin. They're gonna say Martin Luther. They're gonna say John Wesley, John Smith, who created the Baptist denomination. They're gonna say Ellen G. White, who created Seventh-day Adventists. They're gonna mention these guys, but I don't see none of them in here. Who are these guys? Every person who's the author of this book was an Israelite. Every person that was teaching, the apostles, the teachers, the pastors, the evangelists, We're Israelites. Is that the way we see it today? So your vision for your church, if I show up next Sunday and go forward, your vision is golf. But who did he get a church to? You. So the vision was Israel. Read it again. 19, Psalm 147, verse 19, 20. Read it again.
He showeth his word unto Jacob.
He showed his word unto Jacob.
His statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
Uh-huh.
He has not dealt so with any nation.
He has not dealt so with any other nation. And
as for his judgments, they have not known them.
they have not known them. Because he didn't go and sit down with Constantine at the Council of Nicaea in 325. He never told them to do that. And that's what the birth of Catholicism. And when we came here slaves, we got taught by this. I'm kind of giving a preview of next week's session, but I wanted you to see how important this was. And go back to Romans 3, and then go to verse 3.
But what if some did not believe?
So what if some people say that it doesn't matter who an Israelite is? What if some people don't believe that? What happened? What did he say?
Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect?
So would that change what Moses said? What was his answer?
God forbid.
God forbid what?
Yea, let God be true,
Let the Most High be true.
and every man a liar.
Notice how that verse has nothing to do with what most people are going for. What he said was, if they don't believe that being an Israelite is profitable and chosen, let them be accursed. Let them be alive. So, I just wanted to show you that because I want you to understand in going to this next section, what you're going to hear is very vital that you understand what it has, our people have went through for you to know who you are today. I was sitting in church today and I was hearing them say all these things and talking about the struggle and what we came from, but they was only talking about slavery. From there, and I was like, I was just sitting there, man. It's so much more. It's so much more. But all in due time. All in due time. So, session 3. Session 3. And as well, as I said, at the end of session 2, we showed through Deuteronomy 28 who the real Israelites. So, I'm going to ask the question in which I asked last week. It's when we ended. For some of you that was not here, you don't want to answer, I understand. But my question is this. Are you a black man? No. Are you an African American? No. So who are you? I'm an Israelite. Did I tell you that? Or did the Most High tell you that? Because the Bible tells me so. Okay. Now, session 3. Remember, the lie. Why they lied? Today is the truth. Let's go. Session 3. Let's go to Acts 17 and 30. And Isaiah, the first chapter. Got to build a foundation a little bit because if you think session 2 was rough. But what did I ask at the beginning of the sessions? Be patient with me. Have an open mind. And if you don't know, just ask it. That's right. Just ask. Okay. Acts 17 and 30 and Isaiah 1. Let's start there, Dean.
And at the times of this ignorance, God winked at.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we know for most of us that's in here today, and those who will be watching this video, the majority of us had our start in the Christian church. See, and you're going to be learning this next week what grace really is. But I'm just going to put it out there. Grace is not what has been given to us, what's been told to us. The reality is that grace was for us to wake up. That's what grace was for. Because during the time of Moses, and you can find this in Hebrews 10th chapter, during the time of Moses, when someone sinned under 2 or 3 witnesses, what happened? Stoned to death. You didn't get a chance to get forgiven. It wasn't no conversation about it, no back and forth, because they already knew the law. Exodus 20, the Most High came from heaven himself, came down to Israel, and delivered the law. So they couldn't say they didn't know. They was hearing it every Saturday, law being read. So they couldn't say they didn't know. Grace was given because he knew, and you're going to learn today, that even Christ prophesied these things, that we were going to go into captivity. And we're going to go over this in a minute. We'll get to back to Deuteronomy 28. So he knew that his children would be in a land being taught other things and serving other gods. He couldn't treat us in the same manner that he did when we was home. You know how, for y'all that got children, you know how it is that when they're at your house, a little bit more strict, but when they leave the house, some things you're just a little bit more lenient on because they're outside the house and you know somebody else been talking in the ear now. So you get a little bit more patient. But when they there in the house, you know what? You know what I'm saying? That's how the Most High is. That's grace. So what we were taught what grace was is not a reality. People use grace now for justification for sin. When really the reality is grace was given for us to realize what sin was. And you're going to learn that next week. So read the rest of that at the end. He says what?
And the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent.
Now he's calling us all back to repentance. That's what it's for now. So ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about this because the truth is that once you get this, your life cannot remain the same. Too much is given, much is required. And next week, we're going to make sure that you get all of the things. We're going to make sure that we don't leave you hanging. You're going to find out who you is in the first 3 sessions, but next week you're going to know how to go forward. We're going to give you a foundation to go forward. And you just can't go back to life as normal. Because you know better now. Now, Isaiah 1. Isaiah 1. And let's look at verse 2 through 4.
Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken.
Right.
I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me.
Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, the Most High, when he talks, he declares the things upon the world. The way we see things today and the way things operated in the time when Israel was operating on this earth is completely different. It was declared, the prophets would declare in the streets everywhere what the Most High was saying to his nation. Now we have to come in and hear things because we are so far disconnected from the God. We don't even know him anymore. So when he declared it, he said, hear, O heavens. He's talking to the angels. He said, look. You read that last part he said. He's talking to the angels. He said, what?
Hear, O heavens, and give ear,
right.
O earth. For the Lord has spoken. I have nourished and brought up children.
I nourished and brought up children.
And they have rebelled against me.
And they have rebelled against me. Watch this, verse 3.
The ox knoweth his own.
The ox knows his own.
The donkey his master's cradle.
Right.
But Israel doth not know.
Israel had no idea who they belong to. Israel been calling itself black, African American, Baptist, Christian, Republican, Democrat, thugs and thoughts, hoods. We calling ourselves everything but who we are. And once you call yourself something, you will take on that identity. Y'all remember in session 1 that one of the professors at the theological school said that Ham, the way they portrayed Ham, acted as we expect black people to act. And one of the things you hear something like, when you see a kid, a black kid, in school being smart, articulating themselves, acting like they're supposed to act, what do people say? He acting white. But if a white kid is cutting up, being disrespectful, they say she acting black. Do you see that? So we took on these traits that was painted upon us and started acting out and living it, because that's what we thought was expected of us. That's how important an identity and a heritage and a culture is, because what we're seeing in our communities, people are proud of. We did a message a long time ago called Out of the Closet, Out of Control. And when people hear that, they mostly think about homosexuality, but yeah, that's part of it. But there was a point in time when you didn't want to be known for anything that was considered wrong. I made a lot of mistakes as a teen and a young adult, but I was in the streets for everybody to see it. We went somewhere in the woods, we went somewhere, hide in somebody's house that nobody could see us. There's no way I would have just walked by any older person and cussing, any older person and being belligerent, any older person and them knowing that I was out of pocket, as we say. Now, everybody's proud. They have social media pages where they boast about their sins. People put drugs and all of these things on the computer. They look at the drugs. Look at what I have. What happened? This is why, because Israel don't know. And as a result of Israel not knowing, look at verse 4.
A sinful nation.
We have become a sinful nation.
A people laden with iniquity.
Right.
A seed of evil.
A seed of evildoers.
Children that are corrupt.
Children that are corrupters.
They are forsaking the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are going away backwards.
We went backwards. That's what happens when we don't know. Right? So let's go to Deuteronomy 28. So I'm going to show you how this happens. Deuteronomy 28, 64 and Proverbs 29, 18. Right? Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, and get Proverbs 29, 18. Okay? Now, let me get that, verse 64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
That's why you can go from Alaska to Russia to Australia to the end of South America to Iceland. It don't matter where you go, you're going to find some black man there, some black woman there. Scattered all over the world. And this is why they call us minorities. Now, Spirit is telling me to show you this. Decode that. You don't have to go there, but you can talk in this verse. Go to Hosea 1 and 10. Yeah, go to Hosea 1 and 10. Notice they call us minorities, right? But they say that the Jewish people are God's chosen people, right? You can research this if you don't believe me. In the world today, in the population, as far as population as a whole is concerned, only 0.1, not a whole 1%, 0.1% are the people who follow the religion of Judaism. As a totality of the, what is almost like 7-8 billion people in the world, that's only 0.1, not a whole percent, 0.1% of people who follow the religion of Judaism. But they call us minorities, right? Look at what the Most High said his people will be. Hosea 1 and 10, watch this.
Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea.
See that? Now, is that 0.1%? I think you can cover that in Myrtle Beach. The reason why is they call us minorities is because they got us all separated into little groups. So some people over here saying they're black and African Americans. Some people over here calling themselves Native Americans. Some people over here calling themselves Latinos and Hispanics. Some people over here calling themselves Africans. These are all the people that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. But in these cities and these communities, America and the Western world, they call them minorities. Read it again. Hosea 1 and 10 says what?
Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured.
Go ahead.
Nor number.
Which cannot be measured in number. I just gave y'all a measurement, 0.1%. Right? Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that in that place where it said unto them, ye are not my people.
When has it ever been? I taught y'all that last week when the birth of the Jewish people was. Right? That's in session 2. So at that point, at 140 BC until now, they're still calling themselves Jewish. When was they saying they was not the people? They've been saying that the whole time. Ever since they destroyed us in 70 AD, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Once they took us down, from 70 AD going forward, white Jewish people took over their identity. Everywhere they go, everybody say, that's God's people. But they say what?
Ye are not my people.
In a land where they say, you are not my people.
shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God.
Y'all see that? That's why they tell us to stay out of the Old Testament. He said, in that land, you're going to be in a land where it said you are not my people. That's where you're going to be called the sons and the daughters of the living God. Right? Now, so let me show you how this happened. How we got to that land and not knowing who he was. Deuteronomy 28:64.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other.
One end of the earth to the other, go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods.
There we shall serve other gods. There was no such thing as Jesus. There was no such thing as Christianity. There was no such thing as Islam. There was no such thing as Buddha, Confucius, New Ages. None of that stuff existed when the Most High said this. But our people are serving these things today in all these other lands. All right? Go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Even wood and stone. The wood represents predominantly the cross of Christianity. Do you guys know that the letter J did not exist until the 1500s? So how could the Son of God be named Jesus? You're going to learn that next week. This is how we end up serving other gods. The stone predominantly represents the Kabbalah stone of Islam. Christianity and Islam makes up the majority of what our people are in today, all over the world, serving other gods. And if I show people what Allah meant, boy, I don't have time to go into that. But Islam is a joke. You must trust me. Now, let's go to Proverbs 29:18, because we got to get into the meat of this thing today. Okay? I just want to make sure we build this foundation because we're talking about today the truth. And you got to understand that what we thought was true, ladies and gentlemen, is a lie. And we got to grasp that. It's going to be a difficult thing. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but we have to come to that realization. We can't be mad at ourselves. We can't be mad at our ancestors. We have to just accept this is what it is. And we're going to show you that in a minute in the next precept. So we understand we got scattered into these places, serving other gods. Proverbs 29:18.
Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law,
He that what?
he that keepeth the law, happy is he.
Y'all see that? We have no vision. And our churches, they taught us not to keep the law. Our communities are the end result. You want to know the proof? Turn on the news tonight. That's the proof. No vision, no law. Not knowing who our God is. All right? The truth. Now, I'm going to put these things in your notes. You can have it. We're not going to go over this now because we need to get into the meat. But let's go to Jeremiah 30. So what are the consequences of serving other gods and not having the right vision for our lives? We're about to talk about that. I'm going to ask y'all a question. And I want you to say it honest. Don't say what you think the right answer is. I want you to really say what you really believe. Because our mind don't change unless we have the truth. We have to be able to accept the truth. We just can't, project what we don't really believe. If I were to say to you, all the things that happen to our people in this country, in Africa and all other places, who would you say predominantly is responsible for that? Who would you say, as a general statement, who would you believe is the one person that's responsible for that?
I would say the white race.
The white race, right? that a consensus? That is pretty much what everybody would say? So we as a people, you want to say something else?
Well, I was gonna say, I would say if we talk about from common sense, being in America,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the white race.
Okay.
But before coming to America,
Right.
then I would say it's us.
Right. Right. So from a general perspective, a consensus is what has happened to us in America. People believe that the so-called white man did that, right? And as we said the other day, and we've said it in countless seminars, and people almost stoned us to death for this, is Black History Month, ladies and gentlemen, is a reprogramming month. It was never designed to inform us. It was designed to remind us. It's the same thing what they did with the presidents. After 9/11, and you may have different opinions on that, we won't go into that. The general perspective of the leaders in this country were people lost hope in them. They seemed to be liars. So what did they do? They rolled out a so-called black man with a new campaign saying, we can, hope. So with everything that happened to us in this country, for America to quote unquote elect a black president, that would make us believe that this country was shifting in a new direction. Mm-hmm. Our people began to run to the voting polls. People began to galvanize and organize and say, now we got a voice. What changed in our community in those 8 years? Nothing. What happened after that? Who did they roll out? See that? It's a game they playing, man. They sent the guy out there to make you feel good, and then they sent the taskmaster, the overseer, to remind you. And he makes a point to do it every day. He ain't hiding how he feels about it. Right? So we believe that the so-called white man is responsible for our downfall, our pain, our suffering. You're about to learn that that's not true. And Pastor hit on it a minute ago. He said what happened in this country, we can look to them. Mm-hmm. But what happened prior to us getting here, it was us. But I'm going to show you that all of it is the Most High. This is the truth. And until our people grasp this, we're going to continue to be walking around that same mountain as our people did in the wilderness, with a protest sign in our hand, with a voter registration thing in our back pocket, thinking they're going to change something that way. And it's not. What you're hearing today is what J. Edgar Hoover said was going to be the demise of America. He said black unity is the worst thing that would ever happen to America. If you don't believe me, research it. J. Edgar Hoover said that there will not be another black Messiah unless we give you one. Martin Luther King, ladies and gentlemen, was not killed because he had a dream. Martin Luther King was killed because he woke up. They won't play you the speeches of Martin Luther King from 1965 until his death. They'll give you the ones before that. Now, he woke up. And that's why they killed him. And that's why they killed Medgar Evers. That's why they killed Marcus Garvey. That's why they killed Fred Hampton. All of these people that were significant about unifying us, they demonized and killed. But you notice the ones who keep telling you to keep hope alive, they still alive, ain't they? Mm-hmm. Taskmasters, hirelings. That's what happens. So we're going to show you who responsible for everything that's happened to us today. Jeremiah 30. And let's start at verse 1.
The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, saying, Write these all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave their fathers, and they shall possess it.
So he said, this is a prophecy, this is a future prophecy saying that it's going to be a day when I'm going to bring back Israel and Judah. We understand that 1 Kings 12, we understand that the nation split. The 10 tribes in Israel, Judea, consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and the righteous Levites. That's how there was two nations. So he said, the day will come when I will do this. I'm going to start bringing them back. Now, hold your place there and go to Hosea 6. And we're going to show you that they're going to give us a time frame on when this will happen. And you're going to see by the prophecies that the 1948 thing didn't fit that. All right? So hold your place there at Jeremiah 30, and I'm going to show you when the Most High said that this will happen. All right? Hosea 6. Okay? And let's start there, verse 1.
Come, come and let us return unto the
He
Lord.
said, come and let us return to the Most High. Go ahead.
For he has torn and he will heal us.
He has torn us through all the slavery and the captivities. Go ahead.
He has,
He did what?
he has smitten and he will bind us up.
And he has smitten us, but now through Christ, he's binding us back up. Go ahead.
After 2 days.
After when?
After 2 days, when he revived us.
After 2 days, when he revived us. Now, when you go into 2 Peter 3 and 8, you want to go there? So we can show them that. So you can calculate how to calculate the time with the Most High. 2 Peter 3 and 8. I want to make sure y'all have these precepts to be able to study these things and be able to show people what you're talking about. Because you know how people, if you can't show them to them, they ain't going to listen. And that's the way it should be. 2 Peter 3 and 8. Watch this.
But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing,
Be not ignorant of this one thing.
that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years,
One day with the Lord is 1,000 years,
and 1,000 years
and 1,000 years
as one day.
as one day. Ladies and gentlemen, what happened about 2,000 years ago? Y'all see that? So he said, after 2,000 years, I will start to revive you. And then what?
And in the third day,
And in the third day,
he will raise us up.
he will raise us up. So right there, we know that what happened in 1948 don't fit that prophecy because that will be still in 2 days.
That's right. 48, you came back.
It's too early. You can't go back until the third day.
Okay.
That's too early. Reviving is us awakening now.
Okay.
See that? So let's go back to Jeremiah 30. Watch this. So we understand that this prophecy was going to be happening down the road, right? Okay? And this is a result of the awakening and what is happening. Verse 4.
And these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling,
We heard a voice of trembling.
of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness.
So he said, listen, what my people are about to go through is so painful. It's like a man experiencing childbirth. You've never seen a man have a baby. But a man's going to be crying as if the pains of having a baby. So let me talk to the ladies here. When you first realize that you're pregnant, are you in extreme pain? No. You can have a little level of uncomfortableness, nausea, stuff like that. And then once you get through those first 2 months, things kind of ease off, right? As you go through the 4th, 5th, 6th month, it gets another level of uncomfortability. Now the baby's a little irritable now, and you can't eat certain things. You got to change the way you're doing things, right? 8th, 7th, 8th, you coming on into it. 9th month. What happens that day though? The day. It's very important though, because that day, as soon as the birthing is about to happen, there's a sudden rush, a certain dramatic and just overwhelming and breathtaking pain that you have to go through. And this is where we are. Started in around 1500, when they showed up on the shores of Africa. Our nation was started to be burned again. And now we're going through the labor pains. And this is what the Most High calls the labor pains. Go ahead.
And these are the words that,
No, verse 7.
alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's
This
trouble.
is Jacob's trouble. This ain't racism. This ain't oppression. This is Jacob's trouble that we're going through. I reminded the people that the word racism did not exist until 1901. We've been hurting a long time before that. This is Jacob's trouble. But what?
But he shall be saved out of it.
But he shall be saved out of it. Watch this.
For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck.
Y'all seen that picture of the yoke, right? And what we have to understand, I know y'all can attest to this, is that most people, the yoke that they took off us in 1865 went from the neck to the mind. So the yoke now is more mental than it is a physical thing. Slavery still is going on. As long as you identify in the way that they call you, you're still a slave. You got to pay for water. We never paid for water in Israel. When we went to build a house, you went to the woods, you chopped down the trees, and you built your house. You didn't pay a mortgage. You didn't pay taxes. You can own a home. This is going on right now in our communities. When they raise the tax rates, they're taxing people out of their own homes. That sounds like slavery to me, don't it? Well, a man and a woman can work for years, pay for their house off 15, 30 years, and then lose it in 5 years after that for some taxes. You can go buy a car. You don't pay the taxes on it, you can't drive your own car. That sounds like slavery to me. Watch this. He said what?
I will break his yoke from off thy neck.
Now, because he's awakened, there's 2 days he's coming, and now he's waking up his people all over the world. Right? I was in a room yesterday with about 100 people. Everybody was in there, you know who they was. So I'm telling y'all, don't be dismayed by this. The more y'all begin to rock with us, we're gonna take y'all more places. You're gonna be able to see all of these people that's just like us, that know everything, you know. There's a whole world outside of what we think is going on. And if we have our way here, we're going to transform this county into it. Bro. Everything is coming to an end. Most High is ready for this county to be woken up now. Watch this. Go ahead.
And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him.
That day's over. Because now we're getting back to our God. Go ahead.
But they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king.
You see that? You see that? Now, I'm going through these scriptures right here because we're talking about the truth. Remember, he said that when I bring them back into this name, read that verse again. He said they're going to do what?
They shall serve the Lord their God.
They shall serve the Lord their God. You know they have gay pride parades over there in Jerusalem? They be having gay pride parades over there in Jerusalem now. That sounds like they serve the Most High over there. I'm telling you, don't fall for the version of Jerusalem that you see on TV and Daystar. It's a whole other side of this that's going on. Drag queens, drag clubs, strip clubs, everything over there in Jerusalem right now. All of it. The people ain't even following the Torah. TV and Daystar, they're part of the deception. I'm telling you. Y'all ever seen no commercial that come on regular TV where it says, take a trip to Israel? Yeah, they be like, on TVN, they talking about we're going to go here and go there.
To the Holy Land.
To the Holy Lands. But when you look at it on the other stations, they say, A trip beyond belief. They going to the clubs, the parties, and everything. That don't sound like that, do it? He said they would serve the Lord their God, and who else?
And David their king.
He said when they go back, they will be serving Christ. They don't believe in Christ. And the scripture we talked to you about last week, they said that Christ will be back. That's why they tell us not to read this. The truth, ladies and gentlemen. They can't be the people. There's more. Watch this. Go ahead.
Whom I will raise up unto them.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob.
So he told us, don't fear. We know you're going through it. Don't fear. Go ahead.
Saith the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar.
I'm going to save you from afar.
And thy seed from the land of their captivity.
When had the Jewish people ever went into captivity? What slave plantation they ever been on? Now they was on it, but they was in the house. They sure weren't in the field. And when I say in the house, I'm talking about the house slave. They were the one who owned the plantations. What captivity have they ever been redeemed from? Go ahead.
And Jacob shall return and shall be in rest and be quiet.
Is it rest and quiet over there? I thought, and they fighting all the time, ain't it? Because they're not the people. He said, when I bring my people back, they're going to be at what?
Shall be in rest.
They be at rest
and be quiet.
and quiet.
And none shall make him
And
afraid.
none shall make him afraid. Why you got to have nuclear weapons if you're at rest and peace? The truth, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Verse 11.
For I am with thee,
I am with thee. Now he's talking to his real Israel. I'm with you. Go ahead.
saith the Lord,
Saith the Most High.
to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee.
Where did the Jewish people that went back over there in 1948, where did they predominantly come from? Europe and America, right? Are those nations still around? When the Most High made an end to Sodom and Gomorrah, where is it? Now he just said, well, the places where I scattered you, when I go get you, I'm bringing them all down. Is Germany still here? England? Russia? America? These predominantly where these Jewish people came from, right? When they went back over there. Read it again, Deacon says what?
Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee,
Right.
yet will I not make a full end of thee.
I will not make a full end of you. He said, I'm going to spare you. Right? Go ahead.
But I will correct thee in measure,
Mhm.
and will not leave thee altogether unpunished.
That's why we're going through what we're going through. We got to get punished for our disobedience. Verse 12.
For thus saith the Lord, thy bruise is incurable,
Your bruise is incurable.
and thy wound is grievous.
Mhm.
There is none to plead thy cause.
You may as well start protesting. Who you going to talk to? Is there somebody up there in the government that can change my mind? That's why they don't want us to know this, because if we as a people knew this, we would put down the Black Lives Matter shirts, we would put down the signs, we would put down the voter registration cards, and we would come back to each other and say, this is what we're going to do, we're going to follow this law and follow our God. And they know their country would crumble. Because we are running everything. Look at the sports. If all of our people just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm not playing NFL, NBA, or Major League Baseball anymore. What would happen to it? If all of them walked away from their college universities, what would they do? So they have to keep us a part of the system. Making speeches, wearing shirts, saying the same things over and over, which ultimately brings no change. Read that again, Deacons, as well. Verse 13.
There is none to plead thy cause.
There's none to plead thy cause.
That thou mayest be bound up. Thou is no healing medicine.
There is no healing medicine for this. No amount of money, no laws, no reparations. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to get reparations. They didn't do it. Listen, America gave the Jewish people reparations for what happened to them in Germany. But they can't find a way to give it to us. They gave the Japanese reparations for taking them and putting them in those internment camps during World War II for a 6-year period. But we ain't got it for a 400-year period and counting. Because they know, just like the Most High know, they ain't did nothing. You know how I know that? Verse 14.
All thy lovers have forgotten thee.
Mm-hmm.
They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy.
He said what?
I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy.
Nah, the white man did that.
For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy.
Go ahead.
With the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased.
See that? That's why that. So the white man wants us to think that it was him. It empowers him. That's why they want us to believe that. They want us during this Black History Month to go watch Roots and watch, Mississippi Burning. They want us to go watch all this over again so we can be mad at them instead of looking in that mirror and being mad at ourselves. That's what they want. So we'll go out here, we'll learn all these little facts, and then we'll find out this lynching, this hanging. We'll see the kids getting National Guard had to bring them into the schools, and we'll see the Ku Klux Klan march. And this is where we came from, and people just getting mad all over again. And then Trump, he's gonna keep making you mad all over again, because we think that someone else was responsible for our demise. So the Most High is asking, he's saying what? Verse 15, he says what?
Why criest thou for thine affliction?
Why are you crying for your affliction?
Thy sorrow is incurable
Right.
for the multitude of thy iniquity.
For the multitude of our iniquities.
Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee.
Who did it?
I have done these things unto thee.
You see that? So now, we know the answer to the question is, why were we enslaved? The Most High, not the white man. This is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. This is the truth. Now, let's go to Luke 21, and let me tell you, let's start show you when all this is beginning now. This is what I'm saying this Hebrew name. This is what Jesus showed us here in Luke 21, that these days will come. Okay? Let's go to Luke 21. Watch this. Luke 21. And let's start at verse 5.
And some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts. He said, For as for these things which ye behold, the days will come, in the which there shall not be one stone left upon another.
So, ladies and gentlemen, when you watching TV and Daystar, and you see those Jewish cats standing against that wall, beating their head up against it, what did they tell you that wall is? They say it's the Wailing Wall, and they tell you that wall is part of the temple that was left, right? That's what they say, right? Read that again.
As for these things which ye behold, the days will come, in that which there not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
They're liars. Christ said out of his own mouth, none of the temple will stand. You're going to learn in a minute what that wall is. They're liars, man. They're thanking their God for what happened to Jerusalem. They ain't talking to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's God. They're liars. Watch this. Verse 7.
And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass?
So he said, look, they asked him, it's like, okay, when is this going to have? And then also when you go over to Matthew 24, they ask the question, so how are we going to know when you're coming back? Because now at this point, they understand that he has to die for the sins of Israel, and then he's going to come back. And then he starts to go into what's going to happen in chronological order before he comes back. Give him verse, Verse 8, watch this.
And he said, take heed that ye be not deceived.
Take heed that you be not deceived.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And that time draweth near, go ye not therefore after
Go
them.
ye not therefore after them. Now, what we were taught in the Christian church was that this was talking about the David Koresh's and these guys who were going around talking about that they were the Messiah, they were the rebirth of Jesus. Nah. This verse is talking about people that was going to be coming in Christ's name, Catholicism and the religion of Christianity. Go ye not after them. This is what he was prophesying. Remember, he told us, what I showed you in Hosea 6, he said, in 2 days, I will revive you. When we woke up, where we was at when we woke up? In the church. See that? So he said, go ye not after them, because they're going to come and they're going to tell everybody that they're Christ. And it's going to be a white man. And that's what they did. Now, we don't have time to break all of this stuff down, but this is the next stage. Go down to verse 20.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Now, what Christ is talking about here is what he answered to them in verse 3, when he said, verse 6, when he said that Jerusalem was about to be destroyed. We don't have time to go into this today, but this is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. You have this on your notes. You're going to have all that information on your notes. We don't have time to read all that today, but I want to make sure you get it, okay? So he said, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, what did he say?
Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Mm-hmm.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Right.
And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
You see that? So he told them, once you see this, get out of here. And over in Matthew 10, he said, when you leave out, don't come back till I come back. Once again, you see out of his own mouth saying that don't go back, my people will go back until I come. Right? Watch this. Verse 22?
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
You see that? The things that we read last week in Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah.
These are the times. These things had to begin. Us going into captivity, running into Africa. You about to get all this information here in a minute. Go ahead.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
Wrath upon this people. The Romans, when y'all see this, it's bad what they did, man. It's really bad. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, just a little bit. It's bad, man. It's really bad. But look at what he said also was going to happen. Verse 24.
For they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Christ said this, man. All of those people over there fighting over that land of Gentiles, he said, I will not come back until the fullness of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Everyone that's there before he comes back are Gentiles. That's why they hate Christ, because Christ be calling them out. Christ said, listen, everyone there that's there before I come are Gentiles. So all these Palestinians, Muslims, Jewish people, none of them belong there. That's not their land, that's ours. And we're going to get a whole new Jerusalem. And speaking of in Revelation 3. Now, we have to show you this as far as the truth. Let's go to 2 Peter 2. Because, ladies and gentlemen, once you get this right here, and what you get next week, when you go back amongst your peers, they're going to say, man, this ain't right, man. That's false doctrine, man. When you come on the television, they're going to be on there talking about black Hebrew Israelites, which is another made-up word.
What now?
They're going to call them black Hebrew Israelites. It's another made-up term. There's no such thing as a black Hebrew Israelite. They are Hebrew Israelites. Abraham was a Hebrew. Our father name is Jacob, which returned to Israel. Hebrew Israelite is your nationality. They throw black on there to make it derogative, to make it seem like this is some new movement. But you're gonna learn today, our people knew this the whole entire time. This is the truth that you're getting here today. Watch this. So I want to prepare you for the false prophets. Because they're coming. They're already here. We contend with them all the time. 2 Peter 2, verse 1 to 2.
But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies.
They're going to bring in damnable heresies,
even denying the Lord that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction.
and that's why I need you to see here, verse 2.
And many shall follow their pernicious ways.
And pernicious ways mean attractive, flirtatious, exciting, literally. It's name it and claim it. Sow a seed and you can get it. That's what they're talking about, all this stuff. These hope messages, these motivational speakers that you see here that don't hold their people responsible. Jesus loves you no matter what you do. He's making statements like, you love the sinner, but you hate the sin. All of these things, this is their pernicious ways that make people think I could just live any kind of way and I'm still going to get in. And as those pernicious ways, they're going to do what?
By reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken.
And the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. So pastors, I want to warn you, the majority of your peers are not going to want to hear this. Don't be disappointed. My spiritual father said he can attest. We was going every weekend, was it not? When we started doing this 3 years ago, nobody called back. I mean, we had to start, we get to the point where we have doing 2 or 3 engagements a weekend, traveling all over. When we start telling this truth, over. So I just want you to be prepared for that. And I'm going to show you that there's nothing new under the sun. We're going to put this in your notes. Beware of false prophets. Christ warned the people that this was going to come. You're going to learn in a minute that those who followed Christ got out. But those who didn't follow what he said, they fell by the sword. But you're going to find out that the Romans sent false prophets to tell the people not to leave. This is going to be in your notes. This is going to be from the book of Josephus. This is here. The War of the Jews, book 6, chapter 5, paragraphs 2 and 3. When they was getting ready time for them to destroy Jerusalem, the Romans paid false prophets to go out and tell the people not to leave. Same way the Romans are telling our people in these churches, in these theological schools. Teach them that Jesus is white. Teach them not to follow the law. Teach them that grace covers everything. It's the same guys. Watch this. Go ahead, Dick. Go ahead, read that.
A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction.
A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction. This is not in your Bible, like I said. This is going to be coming out of this information that we're going to give to you. Go ahead.
Who had made a public proclamation in the city that very day, that God commanded them to get upon the temple, and there they should receive miraculous signs of their deliverance.
So he told them, he said, listen, God told me to say for everybody to come on the temple and get on top of it. Same thing, did Satan do that to Jesus in Matthew 4? Watch this, go ahead.
Now there was a great number of false prophets suborned by the tyrants to impose
Suborned by who?
by the tyrants,
By the tyrants.
to impose on the people who denounce this, to keep this to them, that they should wait for the deliverance from God.
You see that? So Christ had came, died for the sins, rose and went back to heaven. And Christ told them, yo, when you see them, get out of here, because they're coming. But the Romans paid our own people to go and lie to them. So these guys that you're seeing on TV here, they start our own people, they're paid to lie to us. You must understand this. I won't say his name, but there's a famous preacher that you all know that got caught on the video when a guy was interviewing him. And he was saying, all this stuff going on in Atlanta, why don't you tell them that Jesus really is black? Don't they people need to know who they really is? And he said, man, I know Jesus is black. He said, but some of our people need to believe that he's white. Who you think told him to say that? But when he found out he was on tape, then he wanted to change it up. Go ahead, watch this.
That they should wait for deliverance from God, and this was in order to keep them from deserting.
And this was an order so they wouldn't listen what Christ told them to do. See that? Go ahead.
And that they might be buoyed up above fear and care by such hopes. Now a man that is in adversity does easily comply with such promises.
So when a man that's going through, like right now with our people, for all that we're going through, this is why they take this money and give it to these priests and these prophets and stuff. They think if I can just do this, I'm gonna make it out. Then y'all pull up to the convenience stores, you see the people in there, they just buying all these lottery tickets up. They got all these little plays around Anson County, and they're full of our people. Because they're desperate, they're suffering, they're oppressed, and they're trying to get any way they can get out of it. And the people who are in leadership are telling them to go do it. If you just sow this seed, come on. And we see there ain't nothing new in the sun. Watch this, go ahead.
For when such a seducer makes him believe that he shall be delivered from those miseries which oppress him, then is that the patient is full of hope, and such is deliverance.
If you only would have listened to Christ, they would have got out. Go ahead.
Thus was the miserable people persuaded by these deceivers, and such as belied God himself. While they did not attend nor give credit to the signs that were so evident, they did so plainly foretell their future desolation. But like men infatuated without either eyes to see or minds to consider, they did not regard the denunciations that God made to them. Thus there was a star resembling a sword, which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year.
This is what the Most High did, y'all. He put a star constellation over Jerusalem in the shape of a sword and left it up there for a year. And they still wouldn't pay attention to it. The Most High sent a comet and let it just fly around Jerusalem every night for a year. And I'm telling you right now, this is the same thing that's going to happen here in America. They're not going to listen. This is the truth. So like I said, on your notes, you have this, and you're going to see others. When you click that link that's on there, you're going to see a whole lot more signs and wonders. There was one particular during the time of Passover where they had the heifer, where they was about to go and sacrifice the heifer. Right in front of everyone, the Most High made a lamb come up out of the heifer. Now we know who that lamb was representative of, right? Christ. He was trying to tell them, I sent the lamb. Remember what he told you. It was so many signs that God kept trying to show our people, but they would listen to these false prophets and they wouldn't listen. And they died and went off to slavery. So that got that. Now, also we're going to show you about the Israelite migration into Northern and West Africa. You got this link on. We're going to prove to you that when they left Jerusalem, they migrated into North and Western Africa. Remember I told y'all at the beginning, we were going to trace our people from Egypt to America. So now we've seen Christ said, when you see the Jerusalem surpass my armies, get out. Now we're going to show you where they went to prove that these were our people. Read that right there. This is from the website that tracks it. And you got the link on there. It's called Hidden Truth. And you click on that link, it's going to give you a whole lot of details of proving, a lot of pictures and archaeological evidence. But we just wanted to highlight a few things here to bring this out. All right, read that right there.
After the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, many Hebrews fled into Africa. Between the periods of Pompey and Julius Caesar.
These were different Caesar during the Roman time. Go ahead.
About 1 million Hebrews fled to Africa.
1 million. 1 million. Now, let's just pause on that for a minute. We know that the only ones who left was those who heeded Christ's words, right? If these were white Jewish men, where's all these people in Africa, white Jewish men that are followers of Christ? Where are they? You see how it's done? He said it don't make sense. But there's a lot of people in Africa who follow Christ. And you're going to learn that our people knew him before they came to the country. The real Christ, before we got introduced to Old Sergio Bo. Right? Go ahead.
The Hebrews hid and lived in Africa over 1,500 years, from 70 AD to 1619.
What began in 1619? The Atlantic Translation. And that's why we got you up here in Revelations 12, where we show you that it was prophesied that he was going to give his children a place to run for a time, half a time, and a time. That's for the time that we ran from the serpent until he found us. Now, I also included there a video that you will be able to watch. It's got the link to the video, which will show you all of the Hebrew and Israelite nations and kingdoms throughout Africa. It's like a 13-minute video that show you all of them. To tell you the history, when they started, what they were doing, and how they were following the laws to prove that all of these different kingdoms were Israelite people, right? Okay, so now, hold that book up the front end right there. I would suggest that you get this book. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Now we know that our first captivity was Judea, but we was under Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. He traces the Most High's people, chosen people, from Babylon to Timbuktu, showing and tracing that all of those people from that time, all the way they ended up in West Africa, were the real Israelites. Now, when you get this book, you have to understand that he is not a follower that's necessary of Christ. He's a scholar. He's a very educated man. So he thinks things from a practical, literal perspective versus a spiritual perspective. Now, he adds things in there from a spiritual perspective, but that's not his area of expertise. So that's why we can't live off of that. But these are historical facts for us to back up what the Bible said. Remember, I wanted to make sure that we can verify this thing through history, okay? Now, I want to remind you that some of the things that we're going to read in here, he's going to say Jewish, because he doesn't realize these people are Israelites. So he's going to be pointing out that the Jewish people, what he called Jewish, are in these areas, and all of them are black, and all of them are keeping Torah and law, okay? So I wanted to make sure we brought that out. So we're going to give you, I can't read the whole book, of course. We're going to just give you some excerpts here from pages 77 through 91 and 109 and 124. These are what we're going to highlight here. I couldn't put this all in there, but I would suggest that you buy this book. It's very cheap. Get on Amazon. It's not an expensive book. So let's start on page 77 and read that title right there.
The Black African Hebrews of Egypt and Ethiopia.
Now, like I said, we're not reading everything. We're just reading a couple of highlights in here to point out, to prove historically that all of these people in Africa were Hebrews. They was keeping the law, statutes, and commandments well before any so-called white man influence. All right, read that, D. Get started there.
Zephaniah says 3 and 10.
Now, remember, let's go to the Bible. This is a Bible verse that he quotes here. Let's go to Zephaniah 3 and 10. Like I said, he's not a spiritual man, but he uses the Bible to back up certain things to prove that what was said in the Bible actually came to pass. So let's go to Zephaniah 3 and 10, and I'm going to read this for you. So you have this. Zephaniah 3 and 10 says, "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughters of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering." And in the book, he lists all of the rivers of Ethiopia, which means, he says, beyond those rivers, that means it's West Africa. Zephaniah prophesies that beyond it, our people will be dispersed there. Now we're going to give you the historical reference to prove what was already prophesied in the Bible. All right, go back to that, Pete. I wanted to make sure they saw that it was in the Bible.
Okay. This verse is an indication that the Israelites will be multiplying and making converts among the inhabitants beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
You see that? Go ahead.
Keep on. Skip down. Okay.
Yeah.
No doubt this prophet had communication with the Jews in this remote area. The rivers of Ethiopia connect with the Nile water system in the heart of Ethiopia. The Atbara River extends from the highlands of modern Ethiopia to the Nile. The Blue Nile extends from the direction of Addis Ababa in a northwestern direction toward the Nile. Near Uganda and the northern Congo is the Bahr el Ghazal River.
Now, if anybody understands that Uganda and Congo is in Central Africa, so these rivers come through there. So if the Bible says that that his children will be dispersed beyond there, what's that? West and South Africa. And you're going to see in a minute where the slave trade pulled up, where the boats pulled up. West and South Africa. Right? All right, go ahead, D.
It is 500 miles long in southwest Sudan, formed by the confluence of the Bahr el Arab and Jur rivers in northwest Upper Nile. It flows east to unite the Lake Nile with the Bahr el Jabal, and from the White Nile, these areas are beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
See that?
Moreover, are there any records of oral traditions of the existence of Jewish tribes deeply beyond the rivers of Ethiopia?
See that? So the oral traditions of all of these people who lived there are following the things that were in the Bible. Because, we didn't have the Bibles and stuff then. So we had to pass it down from generation to generation, oral traditions. Same thing we was basically doing when we was here. Go ahead.
Joseph J. Williams cites a particular case. He said, there can be little doubt that there's somewhere in that dim past, probably by the way of Abyssinia, a wave of Hebraic culture penetrated to Lake District of East Africa, and we may credit the following citations. Speaking of Uganda to the west of Lake Victoria and northeast of the Belgian Congo, it is organized native government with a tradition of 33 kings and a legendary line that traces back to King David.
You see that? That's Judah. Go ahead.
It is a proud history. The legend tells of Uganda people crossing the Nile, remember, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, centuries upon centuries ago.
He said we came here centuries upon centuries ago. Go ahead.
And subduing all tribes whose country they traverse. They claim the highest native civilization in Africa.
You see that? So that's just more proof. Now, Pastor, could you show this? This is a map from 1644 that shows you that this is a map of Africa in 1644, and you would notice that map right there includes Israel as part of Africa. Just wanted to make sure we point that out. So when he told them to run into the mountains, they was running this way. The mountains of Saudi Arabia. Back into northern Africa and running down that way. So you'll see right here, that's a map in 1644 with Israel a part of the map of the continent of Africa. It's always been considered North Africa until the birth of the Middle East in 1901.
Israel, right there.
Right there. Y'all see that? Nah, go ahead, D. I want to make sure they saw that. Yeah.
The Jews of the Malagasy Republic. There's an island near the southeastern coast of Africa that is called the Malagasy Republic. The old name for this island was Madagascar.
See that? Now everybody heard of Madagascar, right? Go ahead.
Near the eastern part of this island on the Isles of Saint Marie, there exists a group of black Jews who call themselves Zafin Ibrahim.
Sons of Abraham. Go ahead.
Descendants of Abraham. Professor Alan H. Godbey says that the same alphabetic writing that was present in the Palestine about 650 BC appeared at the same time in Malaysia.
Y'all see that? So how is it that in Madagascar, you got the same Hebrew letters that they found in modern day Israel? How did they got that? Go ahead.
Moreover, he says since the Hovas of Madagascar are members of the Malayan family who probably migrated from Cambodia.
Cambodia. So you would think Cambodia is an area, oh, that's Asian, right? No. Our Israelites are there too. That's not Judah, but that's Naphtali. That's one of the sons. I'm telling you, this is just the opening stage, y'all. There's so much to unravel. Go ahead.
This indicates the historical connection with the Jews of Madagascar. Like the Jews of Ethiopia, Uganda, and Western Bara, there are a multiplicity of Jewish cultures, survivals, complexes, patterns, and traits found functioning among the Jews of Madagascar, such as the following. The day counted from sunset to sunset.
That's the way they count it. When you go into Genesis, how does the Most High count the day? Sundown to sundown. How did they get that? Right? Go ahead.
Many fast days, the eating of beef, the New Year festival, the making of small fire on the first evening of the feast.
That means they're keeping the holy days of Leviticus 23. They're only eating beef. They're not eating pork. Go ahead.
They have rituals of purification of the people. They sprinkle blood of the New Year's rituals upon the doorposts.
Where did they get that from? That's the Passover. Go ahead.
The latter ritual could be reminiscent of the Passover ceremony, which is observed in the month of Aviv. This month is the first month of the Jewish civil New Year.
That's what we talked about. We're gonna be doing next month. Passover. Go ahead.
In this month, the kings of Israel were inaugurated.
Now, that's one of the examples. We got a lot of them. I want to make sure I get some key ones here because we're not going to do all the ones I had because we've been kind of going a little bit longer today than I thought. But I want to make sure, I want to show you just a few to prove that the people here are black. Then I'm going to show you our people here in America, what the slaves were doing at the time. Let's see, get some key ones here. I had a whole lot of examples, but I was really strong to suggest you guys get this book. Okay, you want to make sure. Get a lot of good. Okay, let's go over this one right here. Let's go over the ones in Ghana.
The Black Jewish Empire of Ghana. The ancient Black Empire of Ghana was established in the Western Sudan.
So they started in Western Sudan. Remember I told you they first went into North Africa, and then eventually they came down to West. You know, Ghana is right there, Western, Central West Africa. Yeah, to the ones that go to the ones that's highlighted. Whoa, hold on, what was that? Oh yeah, then go over here to this part right here.
When North and Eastern Africa had amassed over 1 million Jews, these Jews began continuous migration to the region of the Niger River.
Niger River. This is the next one. Niger River. Okay. Now, here in the Niger River, just show them this, Pastor. I want you to key into here, right here in the middle here, and you're going to see something right here called the Kingdom of Judah. This is a map of Africa right here around this time. See that? We said Kingdom of Judah.
Off-white slave coast.
Y'all see that? All right, go ahead and keep reading right there while they look at that.
According to the researches of Nahum Slouch, the tradition of the Jewish traders in the Sahara stretches back to biblical times. Slouch continues that it is not at all surprising to encounter in every part of the desert traces and even survivals of primitive Judaism, which at one time played an important role in the whole region of the Sahara from Senegal to the very borders of Somaliland. And as I have mentioned earlier, this region that extends across the entire width of Africa, below the Sahara Desert from Senegal to Somaliland, it is known as the Sudan or Black Africa.
See that? Y'all see that? If you tune in right there, you see this is the map right there. That's the map, the same map that I showed you in 1644. But right there in the particular area where he told you at the Niger River, you're gonna see right there. It's gonna say Kingdom of Judah. Why would they be calling themselves the Kingdom of Judah there?
That's the one.
Yes, sir. Now, like I said, it's a lot, y'all. It's a whole lot. And, okay, here, let's go to this part. Let's go to the West Africa slave trade, during West Africa Jews during the slave trade. Remember I said I wanted to bring it all the way down. So now we're going to show you these people that got put into the boats, who they were. All right, go ahead.
The black Jews who migrated to Sudan from the north converged with the Jews migrating from the eastern Sudan to the countries of the Niger River.
So what I'm going to show you when I send y'all all this information is there's going to be a map showing them all coming from from Israel. It's going to show you where they all came. Some went northern into the strait, some went down to Ethiopia and Sudan, and others came at a diagonal direction. Right here, he's saying that all of them eventually met up in one place, West and South Africa. And then I'm going to show you the map, which shows exactly where the Atlantic slave trade came from, West and South Africa. That's why Christ called it the wilderness, because these areas were uninhabited until our people got there. We're just not Israelites over here in America, ladies and gentlemen. The predominantly of people of West and South Africa to this day are our people. They're Israelites. Now when you go up into northern and east, some central, most of them are descendants of Ham. And those are the ones who enslaved us. When I don't know if some of y'all seen this, but down in the islands this year, well last year, 1619, because they said that's the 400-year thing. What allowed the people from Nigeria, Ghana, and all that came over to the islands and did a public proclamation and apology saying that they said the key word was, we sold our cousins. They didn't say we sold our brothers. We sold our cousins. Because Ham's children and Shem's will be cousins. They know they're different. We was the only one thought that if you're black, everybody's African. They know better. They know who we are. Let's read that.
It is a known fact that the Jews and Judaism were in Africa 1,500 years before Islam.
You see that? Islam started around 515, 520-ish, 21, somewhere around there. That's when Islam started. Okay? It really took stride around 800s. Our people was already Israelites long before that. Was already doing this. So a lot of our people that's over there right now that's calling themselves Muslims are really Israelites. This book will show you, and other research will show you that they got conquered by the sword, the same way our people got conquered into Christianity. Same thing. And something else that I need to make sure we make a point to know. Long before a white man enslaved us, the Arabs did. Who took Joseph down into Egypt? The Ishmaelites. Okay. They've been trading us. They've been enslaving us for a long time. So when people just emphasize, when I understand, I see when they only talk about white man, they don't know history. Long before Europe came, the Muslims came and enslaved us. And right now, what people don't know, when they killed Muammar Gaddafi up there in Libya, the slave trade started right back. Do y'all remember on the news, maybe a year or so, when you saw all those people that was drowning in the Mediterranean Sea trying to go to Spain? That was our people running from persecution. The Muslims over there slaving our people all over again. It just don't make the news. It has never ended. Our people are still being enslaved. It's real out here, man. It's real. Go ahead.
It is a known fact that the Jews and Judaism were in Africa 1,500 years before Islam, and that everywhere the Arabs went, the Jews were there.
You see that? We were already there. They would just get on the scene. We had ran 70 AD. We had been there. But they're trying to make it seem like this was the original stuff. It's a lie. Go ahead.
The black Jews guided the Arabs and Moors into Spain and acted as interpreters. When the Muslims came into the Sahara, they found the black Jews stationed all on the trade route.
Y'all see that? Y'all see this? This is around 800, 900 AD. We was already there in West Africa, being called black Jews. Go ahead.
And I can positively say that where the Mohammedanism
And this is what it means. Mohammedanism, it means that those who follow the so-called Prophet Muhammad. That's what that means.
is currently prevailing in Sudan, Judaism once had been dominant.
I said he calls it Judaism, but he doesn't know. Basically what he's saying is the culture of Israel was already dominant well before what you see today. Now just read that last part down there, what we got down there. Yeah, mm-hmm.
It is the conclusion of some scholars that the Jewish kingdom of Ghana failed. Many of the Hebrew tribes established settlements along the African tribes throughout Central and Western Africa.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Watch this. Go ahead.
Thus, the Moorish writer Al-Idris of Andalusia, Spain, wrote in the early part of the 12th century
Well, I said this is 12th century. This is 1100. Go ahead.
about the powerful Hebrew colony in Lalam. Lalam was situated about 200 miles west of Timbuktu.
Timbuktu is West Africa. This is one of the most powerful cities ever. These were the first universities come in Timbuktu. They'll never tell you that. The white people came to our people to learn everything. Well before there was a Yale, yeah, before all these Cambridge and all this stuff you see in Europe, they came to us to learn. That book details it all. Go ahead.
The Hebrew merchants were monopolizing the trade that was concentrated at Timbuktu. Lalam was entirely Jewish, and she fought wars to maintain her control of trade.
You see that? I said so much more, but we don't want to weigh your patience. Now, as I told you, we're gonna have a map. We're gonna show you that the areas the boats pulled up was West and South Africa. Okay. Now let's get to America. This is gonna come from a journal article. I had to pay for this because they don't give this stuff out for free. I'm telling you right now, there's a literal book burning that's going on right now with this information. You have to make sure you get it. Some of these things are going to be expensive. Buy it, get it, because they don't want to make these things free because they know if we get these historical records and all this, we're going to have the understanding of what we are. It's a shame that the Bible doesn't do it for people, that they got to get evidence for that. But some people really, they need all of this, and they know that. Right? So this is a journal article that I had to buy from Cambridge University. This is just a part of the journal. They wouldn't even give me all of it, right? It's called The Black Jews, The Religious Challenge or Political versus Religion. The reason why I'm bringing this out today is because the news media and the apologetics of the Christian church will make you think that people started saying that they was Israelites in the 60s and 70s. It's a lie. Notice that I've been all in West Africa, North and South Africa, North and Eastern Africa, and all of the people there were saying they was Israelites then. So if the people knew that they was Israelites when the boats pulled up, what do you think they were saying when they got here? See that? So they want to make you think that this is like a Black Panther movement. And that's why they would come up with the derogatory word Black Hebrew Israelites. Don't fall for that. Okay? So this is called the Black Jews. And this dude, his name is Ulysses Santamaria. He is not for us. Okay? So why would I use his information? I use his information to prove that he's a liar. Because he put it out there. Not understanding that our people was going to get it. Right? All right, so this is only excerpts, just part of it. You will have all of this. Right here, from 1900.
From 1900 onwards, North and South Carolina were overrun by black preachers who were propagating a doctrine according to which that the lost tribe of the house of Israel was none other than the Negroes.
Y'all hear that? As early as the 1900s, our preachers in North and South Carolina. Now notice he didn't say the other states. They were there, but in North and South Carolina, we were everywhere. Predominantly the Baptist church. telling our people who we were. It's a historical fact. Watch this, go ahead.
Although this might at first seem an odd claim, it can be seen as reflecting the beliefs that some black slaves had held during their their captivity when they were interrogated on their origins.
So when they would ask them, where are you from? Who are you? I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Why do you think it was necessary to change Kunta Kinte's name to Toby? Another information I put in here that you guys are going to have, they have a database of every slave that came over here and their names. The word Yah means in Hebrew, God. You're going to see on here that about 70% of the people who came over here had the word Yah in their name. Where did they get that from? So when they would ask them, who are you? They would say, we're Israelites. So that's why they had to kill the people. They couldn't let this go on. Watch this. Go ahead.
A historical example supports this hypothesis. A slave uprising took place in Richmond, Virginia at the beginning of the 19th century.
This was 1800. 1800. Watch this.
Which was led by a slave called Gabriel Prosser.
Gabriel Prosser. Look this man up. On purpose. Listen, they want to make you think that our people were just a servant and we just was following it. They just beat it out of us. That is a lie. There were so many uprisings. There were so many people that was fighting. They don't want you to know about that, so that way we will stay in this position now. This was 1800. What was he saying?
An outstanding personality who had acquired some knowledge of the Bible.
He did what?
Acquired some knowledge of the Bible.
This was before they passed the laws that was illegal to teach a slave to read. Him, along with others like Nat Turner, is what led to that law being passed. Do you think they was worried about them reading Shakespeare? What about Homer? What about some haikus from Japan? What about Little House on the Prairie? You think he was worried about them reading that? What about a book from Emily Dickinson or something like that? No. They was worried about them reading this Bible. What did Gabriel say? What was Gabriel teaching?
He frequently referred to it in order to convince his brothers that they were the descendants of the Israelites and that God would free them from slavery as had their ancestors.
1800s. Now, Pastor, look at this. I have a copy of the original warrant for his arrest. You guys will have this. Dead or alive. Notice this how old it is. This was an original copy of the warrant for his arrest. $250,000 in the 1800s. You know why it was so high? Because this man he was one of like Nat Turner, where they were sending him to plantation to plantation because he was a blacksmith. But when he would go to the plantations, he would be out there teaching the Bible and reminding the people who they were. So all of these people that he had run off with them, we were property then. So now all of these people wanted their money back because all these people was running off with this man. But that wasn't the straw that brought the camel's back. Guess who else is going with him? White people. When they started coming with him, and they started believing him, and they started following his teachings, that's when they $250,000. We got to kill this man. Because he not only got slaves leaving our plantation, but the white people are saying, yo, these are God's people. $250,000 in the 1800s. Evidently something he was saying was true. If this was a lie, why would you go to that extreme? Watch this. What happened to old Gabriel Prosser?
He identified himself with Samson, his favorite biblical character. Like Samson, he wore his hair long as a sign given by God as an alliance made with his people.
Right.
Gabriel Prosser was convinced that God had chosen him to free his people from the depths of slavery.
If he was not chosen to bring this message out, why would all these people follow him? Go ahead.
Like a black Samson, he would break the chains of slavery and found a nation of free blacks in America. His fall was dramatic.
His fall was dramatic because he got snitched out by his own people. Go ahead.
During a night raid, a violent storm broke. His companions, petrified, fled, convinced that they were the victims of divine wrath. They abandoned him.
That's what happened. he got eventually hung, of course, for some other slaves, and then the white people that were with him, of course, they didn't get nothing happen to them. Got a strong tongue lashing, probably. All right. So let's go down. Let's go down right here. Let's go to 1915.
Around 1915, the first communities of black Jews were organized, which called their members black Jews.
1915. They said it's just started. We've traced it right here from Africa to the plantations to 1915. Pastors in North and South Carolina in the 1900s preaching it. But they said this is new. Go ahead.
They started out in Washington, Philadelphia, New York, and other less important towns of the East. Their most significant characteristics lay in their personal interpretation and rudimentary knowledge of the law, customs of Orthodox Jews. Some allowed the eating of pork, while others turned this prohibition into the central tenet of their belief
They're
system.
like, man, hold up, bro. You get out of here with that. They were like, man, get out of here with that. You know, you got some people gonna compromise, but most of them said, listen, bro, the Bible says not to do it, we ain't doing it. Go ahead.
Some even saw Jesus as a black Jew who had been persecuted by the Gentiles.
And we have already proven by the Bible that he was black. Right? Go ahead.
In Philadelphia, under the leadership of the prophet Cherry, the Church of God group stated that the label Negroes was erogenous since the real Jews were black.
Y'all see that? This prophet Jerry in 1913 was saying, don't call me no Negro. I'm an Hebrew. What's these guys? Why they ain't talking about these guys on TV in the Day Star? Go ahead.
Between 1919 and 1931, there were nearly 8 black Jewish synagogues in Harlem.
In Harlem. Now you see what happened? Why they did what they did in Harlem? Now you see why they destroyed it? They unleashed that heroin and all that stuff in there. That's why. Imagine Harlem today if these guys was in charge. Watch this.
Several black rabbis took Jewish names: Mordecai Herman, Ishi Kufman, Israel ben Yeoman, Israel ben Human, Simon Schultz.
So see, like I said, this guy, he's not with us. So he will say that we took Jewish names. We don't realize we just got back to our own names. See, that's what he don't understand, right? Go ahead.
We know that the Jewish religion is one which is passed from parent to children, that is the fundamental ingredient in the cohesion of the group. When one studies the Jewish religion, it is clear how much it serves as the armature, the context for society. In the case of black Judaism, the study of the significance of religious life and social life can help to rediscover traces of more ancient Judaism that some African groups could have adopted that could have been conserved by their slave descendants on American soil.
Y'all see that? So it's like, listen, now we're not just doing this for practical living. We are doing this because we're knowing our people was doing this well before we came here. That's the difference between us and the fake Jewish people. We're doing this because we know this is our heritage. This is who we are. Right? Go ahead.
Were there black slaves who were Jewish through religion, who maintained the faith of their ancestors after they had been forcibly transported to America?
They was forcibly transported. They forcibly took on this. No, we're maintaining their heritage. That's the perspective that we're taking it from, right? He said, listen, are they doing this? Watch what his answer is. Watch this.
Only through an analysis of the mythology of the Jewish African origins of black Hebrews will this become clear.
Right?
The following are major sources that need to be considered in such an analysis.
Right.
A. Witnesses, tales of that black Hebrew witness. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I should have made it larger. I'm sorry.
Tales of the explorers who mentioned the existence of communities of black Jews.
So that's what we read here in this book. The different people that traveled to the areas was sending back tales like, yo, man, these people, these Jews over here is black. Right? Go ahead.
Explorers who mentioned the existence of black communities of black Jews on the African continent, and particularly in the areas where slave ships picked up the black slaves.
Particularly where they picked up the slaves. So it wouldn't make no difference if we could just say Morocco, Algiers, Sudan, or Ethiopia, because the slave ship didn't come there. Particularly where the slave ships came, they were saying they were Jews. Watch this. Go ahead.
B. Rights and customs.
Rights and customs. You had to be keeping the things of the law, which they were. Go ahead.
Which have more or less explicit analogies with Judaism. C. The semantics and the dialectology of some African societies reveal some features comparable with those of Judaism.
So what he's saying is, what he not realize what he's saying is that the languages, a lot of the languages of the African nations have dialects, or basically it's been derived from Hebrew. The Bantu language is basically a broken down version of Hebrew. Some of the words are so similar when you break it down. And when you go into churches like down in Savannah, Georgia, like the oldest black church in Georgia, those people right there were Hebrews. They got Hebrew writing all over the church in there. How was they writing Hebrew? Think their master told them that? He didn't know it. I tell you so much, I can't get it all in 2 hours. It's so much. I'm just trying to give y'all just an overview in a sense. Go ahead.
The deductions and conclusions of anthropological and sociological work done in Africa. It is well known that 1,500 years before Islam, Judaism was present in Africa. Travelers' tales and the stories of journeys across North Africa, the Sahara, and the Sudan provide considerable evidence of the existence of Jewish communities on the African continent.
Go ahead.
We know that from the time of St. Jerome, 340 to 420, a chain of Jewish commercial towns stretched almost uninterrupted from Mauritania to India.
Y'all see that? From Eastern Africa, Western Africa, Central Africa, all the way to India, black Jews towns. From 340 to 420. These were the ones that left when Christ told them to leave. Right? Go ahead.
St. Augustine learned Hebrew in Tazim, where there was a Judeo-Syrian colony which came from Cilicia.
How did this guy, a white man, go into Tanzania and learn Hebrew? How did you do that? It wasn't a rabbi there. It was a black man. Go ahead.
These groups went as far as Alkar in the southern Sahara, and according to the Chronicles of the Sudan, the destiny of the kings the dynasty of the kings of Ghana originated in this group. Jewish contacts and influences with Black Africa were also noted by the Arab geographers Ibn Khaldun and El-Bakri, who stated that the routes of trans-Saharan trade in which Jewish caravans and interpreters were involved culminated in Ghana, and the study of the customs and rights and the analysis of the semantics of these African tribes have led many of their observers to propose some hypotheses and even to draw some conclusions.
Let's draw this conclusion. This is the conclusion.
Dr. Ellen H. Gabi reached the following conclusion. These factors have very specific significance if we consider the presence of Judaism among American Negroes. Hundreds of Hundreds of thousands of slaves were transported to America from West Africa during the trade which started some 400 years ago. What traces of Judaism still remain among the Negroes of West Africa at that period? To the extent that they were persecuted, that they were more likely than other Negroes to be seized during the wars and sold as slaves.
Y'all see that? Watch this. Go ahead.
It is virtually certain that many part Jewish Negroes were among those sent as slaves to America.
Read that again.
It is virtually certain that many part of Jewish Negroes were among those sent as slaves to America.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
How many of them have been able to conserve some Jewish customs is another question. This conclusion put forth by Godby, which argues for the existence of more or less recurrent Judaism in South Africa, West Africa, in some places as those from which the Negroes were taken.
You see that? Why they ain't telling us this in school? They act like they don't know where we came from, but when you go by their stuff, you go keep reading, it's already there. So do our people need to know who invented the tater chip and the stoplight and this? Yeah, that's cool. But what if we told our children that? What if we told them the real reason why they went into slavery? What if we told them the real reason why we're in this place? And how the Most High said, I'm preparing a land for you to go back to. That's history, according to the Bible.
That's it, according to the Bible.
Right? Well, that's it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I want you to read that last line right here. Read that last line right here. Oh, you in it right there, right? Yeah, read that right there.
More or less recurrent Judaism in West Africa in the same places as those from which the Negroes were taken. It's shared by others such as Maurice de la Foix, but most significantly it has been adopted by a class of educated black Americans.
Educated black Americans, go ahead.
As a key argument to demonstrate that Jewish religion is the traditional religion of Africans brought into slavery to the American continent.
So this is historically proven that our ancestors who came over to this nation in slave ships knew and practiced the law, statutes, commandments, and knew they was Israelites. This is what they practice. They know this.
So what they show us on television of us being out there in the woods, jungle bunnies and all like that.
Lies. Lies. We didn't find Christ when we came here. We found Jesus when we came here. That's a difference. We already knew him. Our people was doing these things long before we took on Christianity when we got here. This is your culture. This is your heritage. This is your bloodline. This is not a religion. This is the truth. So, I asked again, are you black? Are you an African American? Who are you? Shouts to young dudes. Oh, this is so beautiful. Now, we got 2 more minutes and we'll be under 2 hours. I want to end it with a Bible verse. We want to bring it all the way back to the Bible. Let's go to Isaiah 61. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a lesson called Christianity versus the Bible. Because we talked about this is the truth, and we talk about next week, we're going to talk about what to do with the truth. And I will remind you that next week, session will start at 5, not at 3. It will be at 5, okay? All right? Let's go to Isaiah 61. I want this to comfort you. This is why I'm giving you this to end off today. I want you to realize what your Savior did and why he came. Because one of the things, and I know pastors have to be weary of this, and you should be. One of the difficult things for people is receiving who they are is because they think that this is outside of Christ. This is outside the Bible. This is why we took you this long way around, to understand the Bible is the central core of everything. There's a lot of changes you're going to have to make. But Christ is at the center of it. I tell people all the time, it's a fact that you're an Israelite, but Christ is the truth.
Okay.
And being an Israelite don't guarantee you heaven. Okay, let's make that clear. The only way you get back to the Father, John 14:6 says, I'm the way, the truth, and the light. No man comes to the Father unless he comes by me. That's Jew or Gentile. Now, let me also say this. I'm going to put this out here because another thing that you guys are going to hear is that Israelites hate white people or they're anti-Gentiles, or you're going to hear some people say that only Israelites can make it to heaven. That's a lie. The mission statement, go to Isaiah 49:6. This is our mission statement right here because this right here is the gospel that Christ came to do. And on our banners for Better Day Ministries, this is our mission statement. This is what our ministry is built on, Isaiah 49:6. And this is what Christ said. Read that for him, D. Isaiah 49:6.
And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob.
To raise up the tribes of Jacob. That's what Christ came for. Now, what they be talking about in the Christian church is completely different. But Christ said he came to do what?
To raise up the tribes of Jacob.
To raise up the tribes of Jacob.
To restore the preserved of Israel.
And to restore the preserved of Israel. And I'm going to show you how he did that when we go back to Isaiah 61. But he also told us to do what?
I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles.
And I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles. So our job as those who follow Christ is to restore the preserved of Israel and to raise up the tribe, to wake them back up, and to be light to the rest of the world for them to come to Christ, the real Christ. So that's just about us. We got to do both simultaneously. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there because I'm telling you, once you get into learning about who you are, you're going to come across people that's going to talk some other false narrative because they're full of hatred and anger. And they're not operating in the Spirit of Christ. Christ told us this is what we must do. We must wake up our people who are asleep. We must teach those who are awoke. And we must be a light to the Gentiles. So I wanted to make sure that was said so that would be understood. That's what we stand for. But let's go back to Isaiah 61. This is how we came from being asleep to not knowing who we are. This had nothing to do with these two men, us two men you see up here. This had to do with Christ. And I want to make sure that's clear. Isaiah 61. Duke, let's start at verse 1. Watch this.
The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives.
Who were took captive? See, so do you see how now, knowing who you are, how these verses is totally different from when you're listening to it from the other perspective? Go ahead.
And the opening of the prison to them that are bound.
And open to the prison that are bound. Who was bound? Verse 2.
To proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn.
To comfort all that mourn. Who was mourning? Who was going through Jacob's trouble? Watch this. This is how you precept it. Because they're going to ask the questions. Let me show you how you precept it. Let's go to Luke 4, and then we're going to go back to Luke 1. I want to prove to you that this is Christ speaking here. And then we're going to go back to Luke 1, and you're going to see it more in depth. Because they say, man, that's just your interpretation, man. Nah, we're going to prove to you through the Bible that was Christ speaking through Isaiah there. Luke 4. Start there, verse 15. Hold on. I want to show something first. 16. Gotta go there.
And he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day.
What day is the Sabbath? You're going to learn about that next week. This is your culture now. No, it's not a religion. So we must get back to the culture. You're going to learn about that now, but I just wanted to show you what your Savior was doing. Right? Go ahead.
And stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah, and he had opened the book and found the place where it was written. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives,
Right.
and recovering of the sight of the blind, to set liberty them that are bruised,
Right?
to preach the acceptable year of the Lord.
That's the exact same thing you've seen in Isaiah 61 and 2. But watch this. Look what he said.
And he closed the book, and he gave it again to the minister and sat down. And all the eyes of them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, this day is this scripture fulfilled in your
He
ears.
said, right here, when I came here to preach this gospel, Isaiah 61, that prophecy was fulfilled. That's how you know that was Christ talking right there in Isaiah 61. See that? Now, so we back this up with the scripture. Now let's go to Matthew 15 and 24. Watch this. Matthew 15 and 24. Right?
But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that? And when we go back to Isaiah 61, he's going to break it down even further. But I wanted to make sure you guys knew that this is Christ speaking through Isaiah here. Now let's go to Luke 1. Watch this. And let's start at verse 68. Watch this. These verses, ladies and gentlemen, they're never going to read these verses on TV and Daystar. These mega guys that's coming with this motivational speaks and this delusion, they're never going to read these verses I'm sending you to. They run for these verses on purpose. Watch this. Luke 1:68.
Blessed be the Lord God of Israel.
See that? Go ahead.
For he has visited and redeemed his people.
He did what?
He has visited and redeemed his people.
His people. Go ahead.
And has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David.
That's the son of David. That's the who the world know to be Jesus Christ. Watch this. Verse 70.
As he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies.
That we should be saved from our enemies.
From the hand of all that hate
Y'all
us.
see that? Why they don't never go and read this? When they talking about this is about everybody else. Luke said this is for his people. It's because his people was the one who needed rescuing. It was his people that we waking up in captivity, not knowing who they are. Go ahead.
To perform the mercy promised to our fathers.
To perform the mercy that he performed to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Go ahead.
And to remember his holy
And
covenant.
to remember his holy covenant. Who were the covenants with? Israel. Y'all see that? Verse 73.
The oath which he swore to our father Abraham, that he would grant unto us that we being delivered out of the hand of our enemies might serve him without fear. And holiness, and righteousness before him all the days of our life.
All the days of our lives. If we're lawbreakers, how can we do this in righteousness? He told this to his people. When you was coming up in your house, You had your set of rules, and your friends had theirs.
Mhm.
You had your curfew, and they had theirs. Could you go back to your mom and daddy and say, and well, Johnny them, their curfew was at this time, so that's why I came in. What would happen to you? So the Most High said, listen, don't go off and tell me what the Gentiles said you're supposed to do. I've already told you what you're supposed to do. And it was our responsibility to get back in this Bible and find it. We were lied to. All of us. We've discovered why they lied. Now we're hearing the truth. And next week, you're going to learn how to walk in that truth going forward.
Amen.
Now, let's show them this, and this is it. Finish the rest of Luke 61. Now you're going to see who he was talking to. Start back at the beginning. So now that you got the precepts understanding, now you're going to see what this is talking about. Go ahead.
The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me
Right.
because the Lord had anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn,
So all those mourn. Who is mourning? Verse 3.
to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion.
And where?
In Zion.
Where?
In Zion.
Y'all see that? So when they quote these things, they will never, you notice they never go down, keep reading who he was talking to. Not who mourn in the world, who mourn where?
In Zion.
Uh-huh.
To give unto them beauty for ashes.
And to give unto them beauty for ashes. Go ahead.
The oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness,
Right?
that they might be called trees of
That
righteousness,
they might be called trees of righteousness. Go ahead.
the planting of the Lord, that he might be
That
glorified.
he might be glorified. Because we are his people. The Most High said, man, that we cursed his name when we broke his law. But now that we're coming back, he's glorified. Watch this. Watch this, y'all. Verse 4.
And they shall build the old wastes.
And they shall build the oasis.
They shall raise up the former desolation.
Uh-huh.
They shall repair the waste cities, the desolation of many
And the
generations.
desolation of many generations. All these generations that went by, we didn't know who we are. All of them are being repaired now. Your children's children, your congregations, your communities will no more longer walk in darkness. Because the Most High is awakening you. Watch this. Verse 5.
And strangers shall stand and feed your flock.
And the Gentiles who we serve shall do what?
And strangers shall stand and feed your flock.
And they shall feed your flock. Go ahead.
And the son of the alien shall be your plowman and your vine dresser.
Roles are getting reversed. Roles are getting reversed. You want to show them the precept on that to back that up? Let's go to Isaiah 14. The Most High said it. The roles are getting reversed. And that's why they want you to continue to stay asleep. Because they know as long as we got them sleep, we can continue to rule. They understand that it's switching around. Hold your place there in Isaiah 61 and go to Isaiah 14. And start at verse 1, D. Verse 1 through 3 is your precept to that right there.
For the Lord will have mercy on
He
Jacob.
gonna have mercy on who?
Mercy on Jacob.
On America,
On Jacob.
on Italy,
On Jacob.
on the Jewish people.
On Jacob.
Go ahead.
And will yet choose Israel.
And I will yet choose Israel. Go ahead.
And set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. And they shall cleave to the house of
So
Jacob.
they see that? So he's saying as that prophecy comes back, that when we go back to the land, the Gentiles are coming. They're not excluded. And they will cleave to the house of Israel. The way they're going to cleave is by learning and following what we do. Christ is going to be showing you this in a minute when we get back to Isaiah 61. So that means you don't diss them, you don't cast them away, you be light to them. We have a responsibility as we awaken to show the whole world what the truth is. This is just not about us, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make sure I continue to emphasize that. You're awakening for a responsibility. Not to hate. That's why I showed y'all in the beginning who was responsible. So going forward, you will no longer say the white man this or the white man did that. He played no part. It's the Most High. You want to be mad at someone? Take it up with him. I wouldn't suggest it. Okay? I wouldn't suggest it, right? Verse 2, watch this.
And the people shall take them and bring them to their place.
So we're going to put them in their places. Go ahead.
And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and
For
handmaids.
servants and handmaids. And that what? Go ahead.
And they shall take them captives whose captives they were,
Mm-hmm.
and shall rule over their oppressors.
And they shall rule over their oppressors. Verse 3.
And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow,
Rest from thy sorrow.
and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve.
Y'all see that? Now, back to Isaiah 61. Read verse 5 again.
And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks,
Mm-hmm.
and the son of the alien shall be your plowman and your vine dresser.
Go ahead.
But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord.
You, they will call you the priest of the Lord because you're the light. You're going to be the one that's teaching and showing them the way. What else they going to say?
Men shall call you the ministers of our
And
God.
ministers of our God. Because they won't be teaching nothing. Their churches will no longer be needed. I'm sorry. It's over. All the religions of the world is done when Christ comes back. Right? Go ahead.
You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles.
And you shall eat the riches of the Gentiles. Y'all hear the scripture all the time we quote? The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. That's what that means. And you shall what?
And in their glory shall ye boast yourselves.
Boast yourselves. This is what Christ came to do. The reverse. Is this Christ, the version of Christ being preached in Christianity? No. This is the Christ that they fear. They don't want you to know about this guy, the one that they call black with the woolly hair. They don't want you to know about that guy that's going to crack this guy. They want you to tell you about this white fictional Jesus with blue eyes and with long blonde hair and blue eyes that's going to be running through the lily fields. Saying, I love everyone. Nah, this one saying, I'm coming back for my people. This is the real Christ. Watch this. Verse 7.
For your shame you shall have double.
For all of the shame, you shall have double. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And for confusion they shall rejoice in their portion.
And so all the confusion that we had, us walking around like we didn't know what was going on, did they perpetrate it? They losing everything now. Go ahead.
Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them.
Y'all see that? This is Christ speaking, saying, this is why I'm coming to die. Why didn't he tell us about this? Watch this. Verse 9. Verse 8, Salaki, verse 8.
For I the Lord love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt
I
offering.
hate robbery. You robbed my people. You took my people's identity and heritage, and you thought you was going to get back with me because you brought offerings to me? Nah. Most High said, nah, that ain't good enough. Go ahead.
And I will direct their work in truth. I will make an everlasting covenant with them.
With the Israelites, with them. Watch this. Verse 9.
And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them that they are the seed which the Lord had blessed.
Y'all see that? Why they don't tell us that? The whole world will have to acknowledge who we are. Watch this. Verse 10.
I will greatly rejoice in the Lord. My soul shall be joyful in my God.
Right?
For he has clothed me with the garments of salvation.
Right.
He has covered me with the robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorn herself with her jewels. For as the earth bringeth forth her bud, and as the garden causes the things that are sown in it to spring forth,
Right.
so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth from before all the nations.
Y'all see that? That's what he came to do. The truth, ladies and gentlemen. This is the truth. John 8:32 said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Any questions? Anything? Anything?
I'll tell you what, after hearing that, it make you wonder how long is this thing gonna continue? But as I told you before, what you're doing, continue to do it.
Mhm.
Some people need to hear this, especially our young people.
Yeah.
Amen.
To answer your question, ain't gonna be taking much longer. They already are in the process. They take our videos down off of YouTube and social media. Anybody who is talking from this perspective, they make a way to block your stuff. They remove it. If I was on there saying the white man's the devil and I say all these negative stuff, these videos get pushed to the front. But when you tell the truth in love, they don't want this. This is what Gabriel Prosper was doing in the 1800s. This is why it just wasn't slaves coming with him. It was white people. That's why they had $250,000 reward for his head. Because the truth wakes up everybody. Give me Jeremiah 16:19. This is what Christ says, that when he comes back, this is what the Gentiles is going to tell him. So that's why I'm trying to make sure I present this in the right way, so you don't think that everybody lied to you.
Okay.
They had to lie to their own people too. And when Christ comes back, watch this, Jeremiah 16:19. This is what the Gentiles are going to say.
O Lord, my God, and my fortress, and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, Surely our father have inherited lies.
Surely our fathers have inherited lies. Vanity, go ahead.
Vanity and things wherein there is no profit.
That's what they're going to tell them. So I don't want you to mistaken that everyone hates us and everyone is against us. That's not accurate. That's not accurate. They lied to them just like they lied to us. But to answer your question, how long is this going to last? We got a very short amount of time. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to give you all that hard truth yet, because that's too much. I don't want to do that to you. It's a lot. Just trust me. We ain't got much longer. This is why we have taken this as an urgency to try to give it to our people as much as possible. But what we're seeing is going to be shut down very soon. We have to jump through hoops, ditches, all kind of stuff to get our videos out. There were times that we'd be doing the videos and they'll actually cut the voice out of the video.
I know I've seen when they cut you off. I said, oh man, this ain't right.
Yeah. And it's just not us. I don't want you to think it's anonymous just to us. It's people who are selling. The videos have just disappeared. They'll find something in the video that says a hate speech, and then they just remove hate. But I can make a video calling our women bees and hoes, and I can say all these things. You'll have no problem with that. Okay. I can degrade women. I can talk about our people. I can say anything. You have a problem with that. But if I call out the liars, that's hate speech. So the clock is ticking, to answer your question. That's why next week we're going to make sure that we give you guys what to do with this truth.
Okay.
And as pastors, I understand you cannot just flood your people with this, but it's going to come a time where you have to make some changes.
Because, like I say, right now, I just couldn't do it because I'm still in the learning
That's right.
process.
I came into the truth of who I was in 2013. I was serving my pastor up here at Garris Grove as a social pastor. And we had an evangelistic ministry, The Better Day. That's when we started in 2012.
Yeah.
So on the weekends, we were traveling, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all over, doing events. And Most High would not let me tell our people it was Israel because I was still learning. I stayed at Garris Grove for 3 years after knowing who I was. The whole time. When Pastor Leslie would let me preach, I never got up there and said we was Israel. I preached, stood to the bottom. Never tried to interject, never tried to overstep him, never did that. Never will do that. When he told me it was time to leave, December 2006, I went in the right way, sat down with my pastor, and said, Pastor, God has told me it's time to go start my own ministry, go forth in this. February 2017, we started preaching this. So it's a time frame. You have to know what you're talking about. And that's why we're making sure that we give y'all enough to build a foundation, but it can't stop with this 4 weeks. You cannot go back to your church the first Sunday in March and preach this. Do not do that. You will destroy your church. And if anybody tells you to do that, they're liars. They're deceivers. That is not wisdom. You continue to study, continue to seek the Most High, and as He reveals things to you, you will know when it's time. You start changing little things, start implementing the things, bring in your leaders, start giving them the things, and we'll be here to help you along the way, whatever we can do.
That's why the Bible says, work not to be ashamed. Stay.
Right. That's right. That's right. So it's a season for everything, and now this is a season that people are being woke up. And in this time, like I said, next week you're gonna know. And please don't shoot the message, okay? Don't shoot the message. I'm gonna say that before we get here next week. Don't shoot the message.
As I heard and I often see,
I don't want.